Good evening, fervent viewers of DMRO TV, and we are deeply sorry for the late start of this program. It's not our making, but we thank you so much for staying tuned to DMRO TV of the Diocese of Boya. Today, you are welcome to yet another exciting edition of Mountain Echoes over DMRO TV here in the Diocese of Boya. I'm your humble host, Father Cletus Aka, and with me in the studio, we have so many intellectual men who will be feeding us today on this beautiful topic we have for today. And it's not a news in Cameroon that it is very difficult to obtain an ID card. Sometimes we go and too many people, and some use days, weeks, even months. And sometimes if you succeed to have your name registered, to have the original ID card is very difficult sometimes. But the government is doing everything possible in order to make everything simple and easier for Cameroonians, so that we'll not be weeping and crying and cursing. So with me in the studio, of course, I will have very, very learned men, my fathers. On my right, I have Mr. Elime Winslow. He's the regional delegate of bilingualism, Church of Bilingualism. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Father.
On my left, next to me, we have, of course, our father in the house, Panjikan Gebre. Welcome, Panjikan.
Father, it's my pleasure. Thanks very much for inviting me and getting me to say something on this very frustrating phenomenon in the country, the procuring of national identity cards.
Next to Panjikan, of course, we have Mr. Bate. Welcome, Mr. Bate.
Thank you very much, Father. It's a pleasure to be here again and to share the experience on the hurdles of obtaining this important civic document, I would say.
Thank you very much. Panjikan, I'll start with you. This ID card issue, is it necessary for us as Cameroonians to possess an ID card?
Father, that is a very, very honest and simple question. And I think I'd like to challenge you. The gods have had to take the question to ask it. Is it necessary? It is a human right. It is a human right. Identity card means what? Identifying a person. Who is that person? Where is he coming from? Why is he? What kind of sex is he? So it is a human right for every person to be identified and to have a national identity card, to know the person and to give the person a particular, not a stigma, but to give the person an identification. So in other words, we are saying therefore that, excuse me, we are saying that identity card is a phenomenon and it's a document that is an obligatory document for any Cameroonian, any citizen of any country. In fact, some countries, some conventions are very, very strict on it. Immediately a child is born, a child is identified and is given an identification document, which you in this case will call an identity card. We are calling it a national identity card because we want to be a little bit Cameroonian. It's supposed to be an identification paper. What is your identification paper? Who are you? Where are you coming from? And that kind of thing. So, Father, back to your question, it is a very necessary document for every citizen to procure an identity card.
Thank you so much. I'll turn right away to Mr. Winslow. And of course, it should be noted, and it's not something new for you, that in your delegation, maybe you may be facing such difficulties. Maybe some people come in to deposit documents. Some will tell you that I have not have the original identity card. And I would just wish to ask this question. What makes for the validity of an ID card? Is it the date or the important information you have in the identity card? Because sometimes when you go to the police station, your identity card is expired, you are asked to pay some money, or you are asked to go down from a car. So what makes for the validity of an ID card?
Thank you, Father. I will take the cue from Senior Brother by saying that the ID card is not just a human right, but it's also a human responsibility, a human duty. The two go together. That said, the validity of an ID card is based on what we can call authentication. And the authentication is the signature and the stamp of the legal or authorized authority who issues the ID card. That is what validates That is what authenticates, and that is what makes it acceptable. Now, for some reasons, you may have a few elements in the ID card which are missing. Maybe because of poor handling, maybe because of accidents, maybe because of the very lengthy period of waiting, and maybe because of the fragility of the paper given to you, and some salient elements disappear on the ID card. The fact that those elements have disappeared, bring to question the authenticity of the document. Partly, though the signature of the authority and the name, and the seal is there, but something that was authenticated or an element of that authentication is now missing. And when an element of the authentication is missing, then we cannot completely say that the document is now authentic, because there are key elements that constitute that document, and they must always be there for the document to remain valid and authenticated. Also, I may add that the importance of the ID card, the necessity of the ID card cannot be overemphasized. You can't do certain transactions without an ID card. You can't write an official examination without an ID card. You can't sign a contract without an ID card. Okay, you cannot be given confidence when you cannot be identified. In fact, you can even be considered a suspect when you cannot be identified, especially in the presence of a security officer or a group of people to whom you are a stranger, who do not know you. The only thing that makes you look like a responsible citizen, an acceptable citizen, is the ID card. And when something goes wrong somewhere, it is only the ID card, through the ID card, that we begin an investigation. First of all, identify the person, okay, because you may be identifying the wrong person.
Yeah.
That's right. So, in fact, there are lots of things, political participation, competition in sports, and other things. You cannot do them without ID card. So, just to say that the ID card is an indispensable document.
Thank you so much. Turning back to you, Mr. Tabot Are, and of course, you see that it's not easy to possess an ID card in Cameroon. I wish to know, what are those contributing factors that is leading to this delay? What are the factors contributing to this delay?
Well, I think that before now, the process of obtaining an ID card was really complex and difficult. But some years back, when the Delegate General for National Security made us to understand that the process will be simplified, that it will be digitalized, following the procedure of obtaining the passport, that you can sit at the comfort of your bed, and then you do the pre-registration, and then you select a date, and then you go for the snapping and all that thing. But the factors that delay this document, I would say, one, most people are not aware the financial aspect of it. Just hearing that it's just maybe the 10,000 francs that you pay through the different mobile service providers, could be Orange, could be MTN or whatever, it's not enough. Most people are not aware. Most people are surprised that they have to do certification of their birth certificate and a photocopy of any other certificate you have, maybe first school, driver's apprenticeship, birth certificate, and then you need to also do the certificate of nationality. Know that these documents have also increased in Taste Finance. At first, we were certifying documents for 1,000 francs. Now it's 2,000. To get a birth certificate certified is 2,000 francs. And then to get a nationality that used to be 2,535, now it's 4,500 francs. So all that is already 6,500. And then the person has to is supposed to have 10,000 francs in his mobile money account. That makes it 16,500 francs. That is somebody who is maybe not working, or even if you are working, you may not have you might not have programmed that. And then again, there's another challenge, is that sometimes you put these documents, you go to the identification post to get a picture, and you are told that you need to present a birth declaration. And the birth declaration, if you don't have, So the officers, like some of the places I've been to, the officer will tell you that you are paying on the spot 15,000. So you see, 15,000 plus the 16,000 is 31,500 francs. That's somebody's salary somewhere, which is not easy. That's somebody's salary for that. So those are the factors. And again, the hurdles, when it started, when this new ID card that we're using now started, they respected what the Delegate General told us. In fact, I asked myself the question that when, in this country, it is the Secretariat General of the Presidency that controls the ID card. So the Delegate General for National Security is reporting the Secretary General of the Presidency. That is why some months back, the Secretary General of the Presidency came to inaugurate the first production center for the issuance of this document in Douala, in Bonanjo. And on the spot, his own was issued just after going through all the processes. But after him, Cameroonians followed suit. It was 2 days, 48 hours. Now it's more than 10 days further. So it's some people don't have that patience. And then the government promised us that when the process will begin, because they took about 1 year to build a system and to put everything in place to know, okay, they are inaugurating, that's why the Secretary to inaugurate the first one. They told us that it will be operational at first, at the beginning, at all regional headquarters. So if I'm in Ngusi or Bazeng or Yumojok or Inokun and I don't have an ID card, it means I have to travel all the way from Bazeng to get to Boya. And coming to Boya, it means if I had done my pre-registration, because there will be there's network in Bazeng, there's network in Tombel, there's network in Yumojok, there's network in Inokun. I will do my pre-registration. I come to Snap in Boya. I may not come the same day that I've been programmed. So some people have come missing the day they have been programmed when they did their pre-registration, and they don't take them that day. They tell you at the identification post that your day has passed. We are receiving people who are fresh. So some people get discouraged, and it's a cumbersome situation. And I think that when the June session opened, the parliamentarians did not take it like they lambasted the whole procedure, and they were asking the Delegate General, this thing, the way you sold it to us, we knew that, okay, we are going to follow the trend of the world. But it seems like we are going back to our Cameroonian style, which is not helping us. So those are some of the factors that make many people first to do the certification. It's not easy because you drop the document. Sometimes the authority in charge may not be there. Just going through that process of certifying documents, many people hate it. Many people really, really hate it. I bring middlemen now. Sometimes the middlemen now make the whole process expensive. And so when you hear somebody or one of your Christians say that to establish an ID card, he has spent about 50,000 francs, don't say it's an exaggeration, because all these small processes will involve buying granules or drinking water. And before you put everything together, you get to that 50,000.
Father Cletus, before he lands and before you pick up the queue to ask the next question, I want to say the biggest problem and the biggest reason is that there's lack of political will. There's lack of political will. And what do I mean by this? The parliamentarians just recently talked about it. But if the government had taken responsibility to say that these Cameroonians need this document, which is so essential, which is so important, which gives them belonging, which gives them an identity like Cameroonians, they would have done more serious things than that. You take 10 regions. It's just 10 regions. How many villages do you have in the region? I don't want to get into those statistics. That would be very cumbersome. I give a very nasty example. That one of the villages, I'm happy that my co-panelist was talking about some of the towns and villages that are near my own. But somebody came from my village, neighbor to my village, neighboring village, Nyasoso, and Nyasoso is not found in the machines. Yaoundé, Boyang, Ngandri, Nyasoso is not found in any of those identification machines. So where are the demographers to tell us? That's what I'm talking about, political will. So it needed to be a synergy of various actors, not just the officers who are issuing it, but other factors need to come in. The map is a map of Cameroon really known. Are the villages in Cameroon really documented? Nyasoso is one of the oldest villages in Bakosi land. You, Reverend Father Cletus, you will know definitely that Christianity. The Protestants started from Nyasaso in those early days before the Catholics. So to say they don't have Nyasaso in the map of Cameroon is saying that Cameroon doesn't know the villages that they have and those that should make other villages. So I will never excuse the political idea, the political will. It is not there. I will need to sit up as politicians. I'm talking including myself because some of us now the CPDM and other parties are going around canvassing for electors. So where these fellows are going to register with what? If they knew that they needed the identification, they would have made sure that these fellows have this document. So further.
Thank you very much,
Panjikan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bate. You are just tuning in, dear TV friend. You are on to the program Mountain Echoes, and the topic for today, we are talking about delays in the ID card issues in Cameroon, and of course in the various 10 regions where we have. Sometimes when you pass through Moliko on Mondays, you see people piled up in the Moliko there, and some of them go home disgruntled because they cannot meet up to what brought them there. And of course, we know that the government on their own part, they're doing everything possible in order to make sure that we have a good and easy way of obtaining an identity card in Cameroon. Of course, Mr. Winslow, Mr. Bate and Panjikan, they have given us the reasons for the delay in Cameroon. So what can be done in order to foster this identity card issue?
I think I need to come back to the reasons they have given, because the list is very, very long. Yes, if you look at my draft, I've talked about individual responsibilities, I've talked about natural causes, and I've talked about administrative weaknesses and technical problems.
Okay.
Now, if I
think you briefly give you also.
Yes, I'll just summarize. For example, if I talk about individual responsibilities, I'm talking about where we as individuals, okay, or citizens of the country have failed.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, there's what they can call parental irresponsibilities. That's parents who give birth to children like sheep, and they don't bother about children without parents. Some children with, cannot even they don't even have parents. You have negligence. Okay, you have conflictual parents where it's a child born out of wedlock. Wife mother and father of the child are fighting, and at the end of the day, the identity of the child is put to question. Poor enlightenment. So some people don't even know that from birth, immediately from birth, you start identifying your child.
Yeah.
Some of them have to wait for the child to go to secondary school before they start identifying, which becomes a problem. Then you have ignorance. Okay, then there are people who are naturally stubborn. They don't adhere. Can you imagine that even in the heart of the Anglophone crisis, you had citizens who were traveling without ID cards, and they conscious of the fact that they were going to be arrested. And then there's poor usage. Yes, sometimes even when you have, sometimes the cards are given are very weak, but even when people are given, hard, documented ID cards, some of them are poorly handled.
Yes.
Some people pocket their ID cards, take them under rain, and within the short time, the ID card they cannot be identified because they have destroyed it. You have falsification.
Yeah.
A lot of people today, because they can't get jobs, they go falsifying documents. You have a student whose references on the ID card are not the same with his GCE results or GCE slip. Mm-hmm. Okay, because he wanted to, and then by the time he wants to move into the next phase of identification, he is blocked because he doesn't know which day to use. Now, when it comes to natural issues, there are things like death, disasters, accidents, and other losses. The Anglophone crisis, for example, so many people lost almost everything they had, including their ID cards. Now, administrative problem, he has talked about, middlemen. There are people policemen, some police officers do their work excellently. Others, if you don't bribe them, they don't serve you.
Rats have eaten something identity cards. Okay. Rats still in the house.
That's right. So bribery and corruption is a serious issue. Yeah. There's also administrative negligence in some cases. Then the question of census. If we were in a country, if we were doing our censuses regularly, it would be easy, to remind people of their responsibility, because you can only count people who are existing. Yeah. Now you have technical issues where some machines are not updated to be able to carry a certain volume, in terms of ID card production at the same time. Sometimes we have, issues as far as electricity supply is concerned. If you don't have sustainable energy, you can't have sustainable production. Then you have poor planning. Some of these things are poorly planned, okay? And then the follow-up. Sometimes, as I was saying, documents are submitted, but no follow-up. Sometimes you have to wait for 6 months to come and remind somebody that my document is here, which you were supposed to pass on to another phase, okay? And then the manual duties, manual technology that we, most of the time, okay, a lot of things are still done on manual basis. But if from birth, we even had some sort of, machinery where a child is identified directly from birth, so that at any stage, we just go to those references and then establish an ID card without, all these processes that have been established. Because the processes, as you were saying, are too long, so laborious, so frustrating, they can be curbed.
Father, how can you imagine a man of 60 years, like some of us above 60, that have to make a certificate of nationality? After having served in the government and retired
so Father, permit me now to take a few in order to allow them also to say something a bit about the way forward. From the things I have said, we can begin to imagine a lot of solutions. That we need a gigantic super computers, super machinery that can handle massive data, so that we can produce so many at the same time. We need sustainable energy. Like I was saying, Madeleine Albright said that sustainable development requires sustainable efforts, but also sustainable resources. Both sustainable human resources, sustainable material and financial resources.
I remember quite when I did my own ID cards, before I have what I have today, I was about 2 years without receiving just I was lucky when I was at that time I was in the seminary. I went to Old Town. This is police station there in the Old Town. There's one commissioner there, one woman. When I met that woman gave me a number. I called directly in Yaoundé. When I called the secretary of Ngwele, Mr. Ngwele, the person in charge picked it up. When she picked it up, he asked me, what's the problem? I said that my ID card is more than 2 years now I've not received. He said that, please give me 2 minutes. I gave her 2 minutes. She called and said, give me your names. I gave your date of birth. I gave your place of birth. I gave. She said that the problem was with my date of birth. While they were doing Moliko, they made a mistake. She told me that I give you 2 days. Go and collect it in Moliko. I went and collected my ID card 2 days.
So one of the ways forward is that within the hospital milieu, let the government, in consonance with the hospitals, establish a standard, identification framework. So that immediately a child is born, information is entered, and that information is, you just need to go back to the hospital, and get,
certificate of deliverance.
That's right. We use that. It should be sufficient. It should be sufficient, because when we have so many processes, again, when it comes to, I was talking about responsible and irresponsible parenthood. You have one matango drinker somewhere, who does not bother about, taking care of children. All he knows is, I can make a woman pregnant, and then he disappears. So something should be done at that level. People in a community, working as a synergy, the local authorities, the chiefs, the community heads, and so on. Yes, we need to go right down. And people like that, irresponsible parents, we should have, in terms of synergy, maybe NGOs or government, civil society, even the creation of more documentation centers, more civil status, registration centers. I think government need to create more of them, so that they can assist. Because there are people who don't even have access to, traveling to a place where they can be identified. Yes, if you go to the far north region, some hidden areas, discover that you may have to travel for a day to reach where you can be identified.
Thank you so much. We have these contributions. Good evening, Father, and good evening, panelists. The topic is very important, and I will wish to say that the government needs to do a lot in order to assist the citizen as far as this particular case is concerned. This is from Maalemnio Jacinta from Gardens. Maalemnio, thank you so much for your contribution. This other one is coming in. Thank you very much, sir. With a quote, one by one person with a quote, Mr. Wisdom, of course. Thank you for the reason. Sometimes it's due to ignorance that people really do not understand what is happening. But again, the government on her own part should take legal actions on those policemen who ask for bribes as far as this is concerned. And I think that is the call for concern, Mr. Bate, because sometimes when you go to the police station, maybe you may have your money and they will just attend to you immediately because you have something to give.
Yeah, I think that what my brother, Mr. Wilson, said there is very important. Sometimes when I travel, I see young people, before you get to the checkpoint where there's police control, they start telling the driver, no get ID card. They are looking for money in their purse to give the driver to go and give the policeman. You spend more. Just imagine you are living from Boya to Douala. There are about 7 of those checkpoints on the way. You spend 7,000, which you would have used to establish your ID card. But what we are saying, like the contribution that came from Limbe, is that the government should be more serious.
Yeah.
It should be more serious. Perhaps you can talk about certain villages in the new system not found. There are also ethnicity that do not exist in that new system. You go and put yours, for example, say Lebang. You will not see Lebang. And then the process will be delayed. Finally, the time which the system was not built by Cameroonians.
Yes.
So it takes maybe 5 minutes. After that 5 minutes, you are always trying to put Lebang. Lebang is not coming. You are spelling your Lebang or you are spelling Lebang.
So they need to update.
They need to update the system.
Yeah.
And we need to move with the present disposition. We are not doing that. I'm not sure that when these people took time, we thought that we were going to do all of this to avoid this. It is true that people go to renew their ID card, the certificate, the receipts, not to waste your time and go and stand on a long queue there. You just make your way. You make your way. But I think that, like my brother said, people should be sensitive. If those police people are really serving the state, not their stomach or their pocket, they will tell you that, no, please take this money and instead go and do certification of birth certificate or do this. Sometimes you move on the way you ask the young girls, let me see your phone, iPhone 12, but he doesn't have an ID card. So it's ignorance. Yeah. He doesn't see the validity. Yeah. And people get mixed up too on the way. Well, I'm sure it's just ignorance and again pride. The policeman will ask you for your national ID card, you remove passport. Passport, are you traveling out of the country or what? So people
voters card.
Voters card.
Yes.
Then my first day. So the whole system, I think that the whole system needs an overhaul. We get, for example, if you go to the hospital or get to the senior divisional officer, the district officers, the sub-divisional officers, the divisional officers, you get all these villages in the system. From every region. So immediately you put Southwest. The main ones are there. When you put Southwest, Fako just appear. You put Bulu Blind, it doesn't appear because the system says that quarter. Once you put Bulu Blind, it doesn't appear. So you are compelled to take Bolifamba. And they have there Bolifamba 1, Bolifamba 2. I don't know which one is Bolifamba 1, Bolifamba 2. You get it? So the whole system, that tells you already, for those of us who have a bit of idea on IT, tells you already that the system was built by a foreigner. Because if it was built by Cameroonians, we understand at least. We know that if I go to Yaoundé, I know that there's Mendong, there is Acacia, there is this. So we can build all of that. They could now come to Libya and say, okay, these are the villages, the tribes, the ethnic groups, and then they call somebody from that division to check, are this what you think should be represent the Libya man?
That's right.
They have people who represent them, for example, that are called parliamentarians. The parliamentarians will look at, they have senators. If the senators are that, because political doesn't mean that you should know everything. If you doubt, you could go back to the grassroots, ask the people who are there, is this what is supposed to go up
Dr.
there?
Bate,
so I think
don't throw flowers at them. I will definitely not excuse them. And when I was in active service, my office here, I used to have documents, what we call credit cards, financial credit cards, destined for a school, GHS Bafia. Credit cards will run the school for the year. GHS Bafia rejoin the sound. GHS Bafia rejoin the sound. And does that say it's Bafia? That is in Muruka subdivision. Sous Department, Abomba. I mean, these are still done by Cameroonians. You're talking about Cameroonians. No. So what I'm saying, there's no seriousness exercised by any of these actors. Some of them.
But that's true because you have Tico and Fico. You have Tico. Fico is under Suza. And that's what is mixed a lot. The central system in Yaoundé get mixed up with Fico and Tico. The difference is the F and the T. And we need to There's a National Institute of Statistics. There's a National Institute of Demography. They should get people to do this work.
Yes.
But the work is not being done. Everything is politicized. And they start singing the song. And if you don't align, I think if we are serving Cameroonians, we should really make them feel happy.
We should know what we want.
Yes.
What do we want to do? Father, what do we want to do? Where are we taking these Cameroonians to? Where are we taking them? I mean, in Europe, Father, you people have been there very often. You get to Europe, as a child is born, they give the mother 3 days out of the hospital to come and get their identity card, national identity card. 3 days after a child is born. I mean, I have grandchildren out there. They have the identity cards. That's why they even bring them out. They bring them from Europe to come to Cameroon.
Yes, even as a promoter of bilingualism, I always identify an issue where some members of the forces of law and order, for example, sent to where without any knowledge of English. Yeah. When they how do they receive, the simple or the common Anglophone who comes for an ID card? Mm-hmm. When you enter a police station or meet a police officer, he starts speaking French to an Anglophone who does not know French. Mm-hmm. So frustration sometimes begins from there.
Yeah.
I remember my daughter was arrested once, a few months ago at 7 p.m. She just stepped out to buy something, and she was arrested. In her neighborhood, she said she didn't have an ID card, and she was whisked away from my 17, my 18, to the central police station. And she begged a friend, because there were 2 or 3 of them, she begged a friend's phone, and she called me. So I asked them to send to pass the phone to call to the police officer, and I introduced myself, and I explained the circumstances, that the child just went out of the house to buy something to eat for the following morning. Mm-hmm. And I said I was pleading with them. Yes, as an authority, I was pleading that they should let her go. 1 hour later, they were locked up already in a cell. I drove to that place, and I met a number of police officers there. And I said I wanted to see came to take my daughter. Do you know that my daughter had even, called a sister in the house who brought her the ID card. But she said, no, since you didn't have it at that time, you should pay us 10,000 francs. And when I got there, introduced myself again, and they said, non, monsieur le délégué, on va nous demander les comptes demain. Le patron va nous demander les comptes demain. Yeah. Okay, so donc il faut faire quelque chose.
You have to pay for papers and coins.
Extremely angry, and I told them that you are a disgrace of the police corps in this country. That you are a disgrace. Yes. Even when an authority, a regional delegate,
is talking to you,
over his daughter who has an ID card, and this is the ID card in her hands. Just the fact that she stepped out without it, now she even got it again, and you're insisting on taking your money. So I believe that I'm not blaming all of police officers. Like I always say, it's not every grain, it's not every grain, every bean or corn grain in the basket that is bad. But right. Those a good number of them, in fact, are extremely money-minded.
Yeah.
And from even from the outset, when they receive somebody who needs help, the first thing is manipulation towards you giving them something that they don't deserve.
Yeah.
So I think a lot should be done. The Delegate General is working hard, by bringing in this new system. As we pray, they beef it up. But a lot has to do on, moralizing the police corps. Mm-hmm. The police corps is extremely demoralized. I mean, immoral. They need to, cleanse their mentality, because the way they treat Cameroonians sometimes, it suffices for somebody to just feel that I have a gun, I have an office, I can pin you down, and they use just that approach at every time by pinning people down. Instead of trying, they have forgotten that they have been sent to serve people. But they want people to pay them even for the work they have been paid for, or they are being paid for, and then they brutalize the people. So the aspect of brutality, especially in the heart of the Anglophone crisis, has caused a lot of frustration.
Yeah.
Because if you cannot, and
it is called
if you cannot, as a force of law, you are a gendarme, you are a soldier, you are
Cameroonian.
whether you are a francophone or francophone origin or anglophone origin, if you cannot communicate with the common man in the official language that he speaks best, you are a failure, and you cannot produce good results, because the communication gaps, okay, between you and the person would rather create anger on your part, because you cannot communicate, okay, and then that will lead to violence.
That's always been the case. That's always been the case, because as we are talking about them just being very arrogant, you see, when I tried to find out, I looked at the traits of cultural background, the bicultural nature of the country, I realized that our brothers across the Mongo are very hostile. It starts from the house. Secondly, I said, okay, let me go to the training schools. I went to SIAP. I realized that they have a core program called Professional Ethics. I went to the Gendarmerie Training School in Yaoundé. I also discovered that. Then it tells you that it's the common language, the common saying in English, that you pass through school, but school does not pass through you. So the mind, they just know that they have two things that they are protecting, they have over you as a civilian. One, they have the gun, they have the uniform. And so, and the guys they have the cell, and the guys tell a lot of lies. You can start with a policeman here now, you say something, by the time the second, third policeman comes, the story changes, and they start asking yourself whether you were the one who said it.
They call them
fabricate and
implicating you more. And it's like you have disrespected the uniform, blah blah. Sometimes even think that all of us are serving this same state. But I want to be very clear on this point, that it happened to me one time at the checkpoint in Bikoko. And I'm not taking lying down. I moved straight to the general who controlled Southwest and Northwest. I'm in Southwest and Littoral. I presented a complaint. I took it to human rights. I took it to, when I brought the document for them to sign, after realizing that the general has signed to receive, has said that he has received a copy, that should go back to that police. The person was the head should sign. All of them refused to sign. That tells that they were guilty. But sometimes we too need to stand on our right as civilians, know your right, and then don't over-exercise it too, because where your right starts or ends, somebody else's own begins. Let us just try to understand the problem, like Mr. Wilson will say, is just communication. That communication gap between me, who is cultured as an Anglo-Saxon person, and the communication gap with the person who speaks the other language, the language of the Mohel, which is very arrogant sometimes. He grows in that culture and comes, and he doesn't want to understand, and he uses that violence, intimidation, and so on and so forth. So we are saying that for those of them who are listening, they are given the instrument to command, they should try to talk to these boys. Every morning before they take service, there is a head who talks to them. Insist on moral integrity, so that respect the citizen, and the citizen will respect you. You are there to protect us. So they are called forces of law and order. But me, I call them forces of law and disorder. They are law and disorder. Lawlessness and disorder. That's why I call them. Yes, because they bring a lot of disorder. Sometimes when you see them, they want to control traffic. There's more traffic. But when they are not there, there's no traffic. So there is some lawlessness that they promote and the disorder. So I think that it's a good thing that we are trying to share these ideas, and we know that JMROTV has wider audience. Some will listen, and our viewers to please don't be ignorant about this document. Go for it.
May I add that one of the ways forward is that add an identification on your identification paper.
Yes.
What am I saying? If you look at, if you go around now, you see young men selling, stickers, telephone number stickers, to people who have identification papers. Because sometimes when the document gets missing, you can enter into a horrible frustration. In fact, you can even lose serious opportunities in life because that document is missing. You cannot even receive money that is sent to you, from across, the Atlantic Ocean. But when you have that identification paper, your ID card, or any other important document, have it well sealed. Have it well sealed, take it to somebody, let them laminate it and seal it so that water cannot percolate inside. And then you have that sticker of your telephone number. When your wallet is missing or your ID card is missing, somebody can pick it and call you So it's a very important instrument of social communication and of retrieval of missing ID cards. Because one issue is missing ID cards.
Thank you so much, Mr. Winslow. I would really wish to say that we are deeply sorry for the late start of this program. Of course, it has been a wonderful program. But again, the issue of ID card is not yet over. We need to reschedule this panel again to come up with more information to fit our audience out there. Sometimes we really propose but God dispose. So we wish to really apologize to our audience, to you, the panelists, for waiting. I am the cause. I came late due to unforeseen circumstances. Of course, our beautiful audience and handsome audience will always understand with us, because DMRO TV, we are always here to share the light of hope. But before we close this program, I would like to have your last words for the government, because it concerns the government really, because they are in charge of maintaining law and order in Cameroon, and everything must pass through the government. Anything without the government is nonsense. So what advice do we have for the government before going, Mr. Bate?
Well, I think that the first thing the Delegate General should sign an order to halt the production of ID cards, so that we check the information that is online. Some of the informations are not matching.
The templates.
The template needs to be reworked.
Okay.
Yes. And then we have our brother who is an expert in language.
Yeah.
So the translation do not tie. So sometimes somebody is finding what to choose as occupation. So I think that if they stop it for 3 months or 4 months, they will not kill people. And then if they stop it, that they will not produce it, the law should be enforced, because sometimes you are even moving that the Delegate General sign an order, don't worry people with ID card. It instead gives the men in uniform more power to extort money from the common citizen. So they should be more serious, because Cameroonians they really want, they love their country and they really want to have the document. They are putting pressure on us now because we are not far from October and they want votes.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Bate. Banjikam.
Yes, Father, like I said earlier, it's a very, very frustrating problem, and very, very frustrating. And I don't like us to live here sweeping our debt under the carpet. We should sweep our debt straight on the carpet. Let the political will be shown manifest. The politicians should take their disposition. The National Assembly should pass a legislation on it. What is wrong? I mean, we have all kinds of conventions, the British Charter, United Nations, all of that talk about identifications and ID cards. What is wrong with the National Assembly coming out and say identity cards should be issued in 10 months or in 2 months or in 2 weeks or whatever thing, and they vote out money. They ask the government to make money allocated for this and that. So synergy of action, and the National Assembly should sit up. In fact, the political will should be shown and be made manifest.
Thank you so much, Mr. Winslow.
Yes, may I say that amongst other factors or contributions, that the card or the preliminary card, right, which is most of the time, a little piece of paper, okay, should not be given any expiry date. Yes, that is my problem. Yeah. Okay, it should be authenticated with the signature of the police officer and signed. When it is signed and stamped, okay, let it be left open.
It makes it elastic.
Of course, because sometimes the constant manipulation of this paper, expiry date today, you go the extend, and that expiry date at the end of the day, you don't even have any space to write to extend again. So I think they should completely leave that open, because it's an authenticated document. It is valid. Yes, so that the person should not be traumatized whenever, because you can imagine, okay, in the heart of the Anglophone crisis, where somebody cannot travel, okay, your ID card expires. And when you get you want to travel without that expired ID, preliminary ID card, you'll be stopped somewhere and you can even be punished. So I think to avoid traumatizing citizens, they should completely uplift the element of expiry date on the preliminary ID card. Another thing is working in synergy. The private sector is one of the sectors, or most of the time, helps the state, because the state cannot do everything by itself. So we're talking about synergy, local authorities and so, but the private sector. So the private sector should step in as much as possible. Help government by creating more identification, more civil status identification centers. Because if we have this at close range to so many people. I think the problems of misplaced ID card, torn ID cards, non-matching elements on the ID card and other documents can easily be sorted out. Because the problem of traveling, somebody can travel, and because of traveling, he loses some other thing or he loses his life in an accident. So movement is a problem, especially where we have very bad roads. So to limit movement and to limit stress and to limit this brutality that we are talking about that comes from some security officers, okay, we can. Then from birth, like I was saying, it is easy to link the hospital and the civil status directly. That every child who is born, okay, the hospital should establish an identification, pre-identification paper, which is now taken to. And when they make it a law, as you was talking about, it becomes legislation. Everybody will follow suit. So that because we have a problem that is more and more problems piling because we have a number of unpublished ID cards, and then more children are born and so on. So if we can make it simple, hospital and the civil service registry, it ends there. I'm sure a lot of stress will go away from people.
Thank you so much, dear TV friend, for staying tuned to DMRO TV. Want to thank you very much, Dr. Bate Evis, for coming. Want to thank you very much, Pan Jikang Gabriel, for coming. And of course, want to thank you very much, Sir Elime Winslow. I'm happy to have you here, and we hope to have you more and more. Next time, we shall be talking about bilingualism, so that we are going to have the really understanding of that. And I myself, I have to enroll to that school to perfect my French.
Yes, so that permit me to say that the Boya Regional Linguistic Center and its Lime Annex, in the quest of promoting this bilingualism, is launching what they call the Junior Intensive Holiday Program. It's not only for youth. Okay. But we think that since children are on holidays, they can have a greater opportunity to be given bilingual training. So that program begins on the first phase. Okay. It's 2 phases. We have July and August. So we are beginning on the 1st of August. But in next week we shall make sure that enough communication go out to that effect. Okay,
I think DMRO TV is one of the channels in order to pass ahead that information. Of course. Thank you so much, dear TV friend. Thank you very much, our broadcaster. Thank you very much, station manager Joyce Mbong. And of course, thank you so much, my dear panelists. And stay tuned to DMRO TV, and we keep sharing the light of hope. Have a wonderful weekend. God bless you. Sunday we celebrate the solemnity of the most holy body and blood of Jesus Christ, Corpus Christi. I wish you a wonderful celebration, and see you again next week. Thank you. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Father.